Our passion didn't start with the mouth. It started with people, with the well-being of the profession, and if you're like me, maybe a little bit of your nerdiness and all things tech too. We all want to love what we do, but the truth is, burnout, people problems, and glass ceilings can keep us from doing what we set out to do. So let's get back to the heart of connection. Welcome to the Dental Handoff. This show is about passing you the knowledge, the habits, the systems, and the strategies to lead your teams, lean on your tech, and listen to your gut while you take care of people and truly the overall health of our communities. Let's stop using the wrong end of the toothbrush, y'all. My name is Dr. Kelly Tanner. Oh, and uniquely, I'm a dental hygienist too. You can consider me a guru in the dental and leadership industry. With over 3 decades of experience, my goal is to take you to the next level by empowering growth, perspective, and confidence. By identifying the gaps, recognizing the plaque, and extracting the truth with the other experts in the field. I'll share their stories, empower you to own yours, and elevate your passion in the process. So have a seat in the chair, put on your bib, and let's get to work. Welcome to the Dental Handoff. I am Dr. Kelly Tanner at the ADHA Conference at the Bisco booth. And today I have one of my great friends. You guys probably know her, Dr. Megan Reutter. Megan, it's so good to see you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Kelly. Seriously, this has been such like a reunion. It's been 3 years since we've seen each other in person. So this has been fun. What
I know.
A nice treat.
Yeah, we saw each other at a conference, the RISE conference before, and Megan and I just hit it off. And you guys hear me talk about this all the time, how the networking, the relationships that you all build, they're so important. And being at these conferences, it's cool because you get to just kind of run into each other and say, oh my gosh.
It's been fun. You know, you have all these friends on social media and then you're like walking by and you're like, I don't want to be a creep, but I know you. And how are you? It's so good to see you. You know, and it's you, like I just said, when we were walking over, you realize it's a small world, you know, when you start going to these conferences. This is my first time being at the ADHA conference. So I'm really excited, and it's been fun just to see everybody and network and get to see everybody in real time and face to face.
Yeah, and then say, okay, well, I know that you're leaving now or you're going somewhere else, but can we catch up later? And you actually get their information in your phone. So you don't have to track them down and get on somebody's calendar. So you get to, I don't know, meaningful, be present with them for a few minutes and just catch up. And, you know, I know. And, you know, Megan's getting ready to have her 3rd child.
Yes.
So
yeah. This is kind of my last outing in hurrah before I kind of go into hibernation nesting mode. So I'm doing about 8 weeks. So this is kind of the last hurrah of getting to see people.
Yeah, before you go into baby zone where you just don't know what day it is. And so this is important, I think, too, for our profession, because there are many women who are like, can I do it all? And, you know, what's my capacity after I have a child, 3 children, 5 children, whatever that is for your story. And one of the reasons why I asked Megan to come on the show, I mean, she's a huge supporter of Next Level Dental Hygiene, and she's my right hand in a lot of things. So it's so good to have you on just as a guest, because your story is about you, you know, your why. It's always about your why, but then how you're doing this real time and how you've overcome and what your mindset truly had to be coming through that. So first of all, the question is, why dental hygiene? It always starts with that.
Yeah. So, you know, I think my sister was a CNA in high school. We both started working in healthcare at a really young age. I knew that nursing was not for me after seeing her be a CNA, and now she's a nurse. And so I actually just shadowed my dental hygienist. I loved the feel of their office, and it was just always so fun and upbeat and such a great teamwork environment that's really to dental hygiene. And so I went through my program, absolutely loved the program. I was all in. It was like hygiene was my entire life during those precious 2 years. I kept in contact with my program director. And so that was really kind of what gave me the confidence and the motivation to just kind of move forward with my degrees and my education. And I was working full time in private practice right after I graduated for the first year, and really knew that I just felt like there was something bigger that was calling for me. So I went and completed my bachelor's in community health, and which my mom is very involved in community health and outreach, and so I think that's kind of what led me to that field a little bit. And then I, as always, had kept in contact with my, like I said, the program director, got into education. So I did my master's in dental hygiene through Bridgeport University. And then still after that, I thought there's still something bigger that's calling for that medical dental integration. And so I went and finished my doctorate in health sciences from AT Still University, and I completed that already 3 years ago. Yeah. So it's just crazy how fast time flies. I feel like I was a forever student for a while, but now that you're on the other side of things, you just really cherish each one of those little pieces of journeys that you've been through. Go on.
So what made you say, okay, I'm going to do this now, my doctorate? Like, I'll ask that question first because I have a lot of questions for you. So why your doctorate, and what did you think you were going to do with that?
That is a good question, because to be honest, when I first started it, I didn't know. I remember I thought when I finished my master's, like, I'm going to be done. I'll always lifelong learning through CEs and reading and, research and things like that. But when I remember specifically that moment, where I was at graduation with my other hygiene classmates, and one of them was like, I'm starting my doctorate right away. And I was just like, oh, you are? You are? So then I was like, well, maybe I'll consider it. I was kind of just toying with it. And I'm kind of the person where if I get an idea in my mind, it's done.
Yeah. I think a lot of us may be like that. Are you like that? You probably are.
So it was I've been graduated in June, and then I ended up starting my doctorate program that October. And so because I knew, and at that time I wasn't married, didn't have kids. And I thought, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now. Well, I've got the time, and I finished up my last year of finishing my degree I had our first child. So it can, and I have a lot of respect for people that go back to school with kids, because that's a whole new ball game too. But I just really felt like if I wanted to not necessarily leave dental hygiene, because that's my first love, it's my passion, but if I want to be seen honestly, as a respected healthcare provider at the table, I needed something a little bit bigger. And so that's why I went for my doctorate of health sciences. And because we don't have a terminal degree in hygiene,
Yet,
that was kind of my why as to why I've continued on for my doctorate degree.
And then what did you do after that? Did you know exactly what you wanted to do once you graduated and say, okay, this is the thing? Because that's always the question I got. Like, so what are you going to do? Like, what's your title going to be? And I was like, what's your story?
And I know, and it's true, because that was, again, even when I started, I really wasn't sure. When I finished, I really wasn't sure, and so I knew I really was started in education, fortunately, during my master's degree in dental hygiene. And so I thought, I went and actually worked in public health for a year, and I got a lot of experience and exposure doing that as a community health educator, which I really enjoyed. It was during COVID. That was an experience too. But I really knew I wanted to get back into education. And so currently now my main role is I'm an adjunct faculty member at Campbell University and their Doctor of Health Sciences program. And so I've gotten to teach a lot of really great courses for safety and risk management and community health and innovations in rural health. I live in rural Illinois. And so seeing that, I've been in private practice for 10 years, and seeing the challenges that rural residents face, not only in healthcare, but just accessing care in general. And I get to work with students that are, I don't even really feel like I should call them students, because they're peers of mine. I feel like I'm just guiding them through a course, but they're respiratory therapists, they're nurses, they're in research. It's everyone always has a different spin and something to contribute to the table, and we have such great discussions, and that's what I love about it. It's kind of my little piece, it's like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like my slice of heaven during the week that I get to look forward to, that I get to have really intelligent and meaningful and passionate discussions with everybody.
I bet it's also one of the things, because I know you, is the curiosity that it also breeds. It formulates other questions that you have about what you think that you know and where things are truly moving. And then, so that's the thing. That's one of the things that they teach you in your PhD or your doctorate level education, is that it's about the questions that you're asking. Because I feel like that the quality of the questions that I began to ask of everything and everyone, in a kind way, of course, it
Yeah.
just became deeper. Because you really were able to see kind of what the true issues were. You were able to just cut down to the core of it, the foundation, and say, okay, what's really trying to be solved here? Are you finding that?
Yes, and it's interesting as I have conversations with other medical providers and other health professions. It's interesting. You don't realize how much you do know until you start talking and having those conversations, and it's very invigorating. It's very enlightening to learn from them. They're learning from me and from the unique oral health perspective, and I just feel like dentistry, oral health, preventative care is at this just bubble point where we're really about to take off, and it's just a really exciting time to see in healthcare right now.
Yeah, and are your students feeling that way too? Are they like psyched about this?
Yes, and it's fun because like I said, I've got a variety of students, but I do have one or two that have gone through each class that are dental hygienists as well. And so when we get together and we talk about the issues and things that they want to change, we're all everyone's channeling, and their mindsets are all the same, as far as we're moving the profession forward, helping our patients, helping these vulnerable populations. And so it's just very exciting to see all of that starting to come to fruition. You're seeing the momentum start.
Yeah. And now I'm going to back up for just a second, because I'm going to talk a little bit about and ask you what you think your secret sauce is. Like, how did you go back and go to school and still you're doing all that you're doing while being a mom? Like, what's your advice to people? Like, is it, obviously it's doable. I did it too. So what would be words of advice or things that you've learned?
Sometimes, and I still have to work on this myself too, and remind myself, is before I say yes to something, is just kind of take a moment to internalize, and you don't have to answer anybody or anything right away. Let yourself have whether it's 24 hours or a couple days, just to really think on it. Getting really clear about your purpose and your values and what is it that you want to achieve. Because I mean, I'll tell you, there's a lot of different roles that I see on LinkedIn or this place, and it's like, wow, that looks like a really cool role. I could do that. I'd be really fun. I could be good at that. But it's like, but is that really aligning with my purpose and my why, and what I started? What were my goals at the beginning of the year, and where am I at 6 months from now? What has come to fruition? What hasn't? Why hasn't it yet? What am I maybe blocking something in the process of why I haven't gotten there yet? So I think just making sure that you're very honest with yourself, and you know it's hard, and I'm learning this too, but it's saying no to things that might not serve you well in that moment. So I think it's hard. It's a hard lesson for all of us to learn. And every experience that I have gone on and journey has taught me something, but I think especially right now with expecting my third child, is really just making sure that I'm not overextending myself, because we crash and burn, and I've done that too, and you crash and burn, so you can only do it for so long. And so I think just again being really true to yourself and finding your purpose and finding your why, writing that down, looking at it every day, and when you have an opportunity that presents, is going back and looking at maybe those answers that you had in front of you as to what is your why, what is your purpose.
And so what I just heard is that get clear on what you want. What you want is what I always say. Like,
Yeah.
not just what you want, like, oh, I want a new car, but like, why do you want it? What does that give to you? What does that do for you? And then draw some clear boundaries around that as well. And Megan teaches some great courses in next level dental hygiene with our 5 courses on leadership essentials for dental professionals. So go check those out as well. How did you figure out what you wanted? Like, how did you get clear and just say, this is for me, this is eeny, meeny, miny, mo? How'd you do that?
Well, medical dental integration has always been a passion of mine. And so I did a bachelor's, for my bachelor's degree, I did an internship, and it was at an FQHC where I was able to go in and provide oral care education to expecting mothers, new mothers. And so I got to see the importance of the medical dental integration there. So that's always been a strong passion of mine. And then just leadership, I think that was kind of what we first, bonded on was, how do we not only lead ourselves, and that is, I just love personal development. That's one aspect of leadership, but then when you start getting into leading organizations, making change, emotional intelligence, how you read the room, how do you communicate with other people and work together in teams, because I worked in some really great teams and offices, and I worked in some not so great teams where there was just a lot of disconnect, and both experiences have been really valuable for me. And so I think those are kind of when you start having these personal experiences, like you said, you just start asking why. And it was funny, the not so great experience that I had was after I finished my doctorate degree in leadership. And I had such a different spin and perspective on that experience compared to my other coworkers, because I didn't have to make it about me, because I understood how people work together and how maybe what triggers people. Or so I was able to kind of almost disconnect from it a little bit because of my leadership and emotional intelligence and um, you know background knowledge on leadership and organizational behavior and personal development, that you realize it's not about you.
Yeah.
As why something, it might not be working right, or a team might have be a little clunky. It's not about you. So that kind of helped me navigate through that experience.
Oh, that's such great advice, because I think that many of us have been in the situation where um, we reached kind of like a stalemate, right, within our teams. And I think in those points and those times, it becomes about the ego, about who's right, who's wrong. But truly, if you think about why you join a group, or about why you've joined in the first place, that it's about coming together as a collective to get to the best decision. The best idea wins, sort of, with all that collaboration and everyone's involvement for that shared decision making is so vitally important, because it's not about whether you're right or I'm right. It's we have to be egoless as much as we can, state our point and our perspective, because when you're part of a group, well, you were asked to be part of that group for a reason.
Right.
And then what I hear you say too, Megan, and it's what I do, is like, okay, is this serving what I want to do now in my life, because I've gotten that clarity? When you have that clarity, it only makes room for that in your life, and then you can be more intentional about that.
And being able to, like, right now in this period, I'm kind of slowing down a little bit in my life. I'm not working as much in clinical practice anymore, and I don't know exactly every single, I'm kind of a planner, many of us hygienists are, but leaving space for, I feel like is now a time just for new opportunities to come in that are supposed to come into my life. So I'm kind of just cherishing this little moment in time to allow for space and things to come up. So it's kind of, it's exciting.
Yeah, one of the barriers that I find that do happen, I mean, and this is my personal story too, is that when you become so busy, you don't see, you can't, like almost receive
Get
some of
bogged
the,
down.
you do get
Yeah.
bogged down, and it can close off things or push them to the side and not make you available for those things that are truly intended for you, because you keep yourself so busy and you almost end up becoming too overcommitted.
Yeah, and I really have, because I've done some coaching with Jamie Dooley as well, and really, focusing on that the universe is working for me. It's for my benefit. I just need to be open to receive what it's telling me, and listen, and taking a moment to silence myself, my thoughts, and let the universe kind of just work for me a little bit, and trust that it's going to.
such an uncomfortable place though,
Yes.
because especially as a business owner, and well, truly, like even if you're not a business owner, you're like, okay, what's the next step in my life? Where do I go from here? Because I know that we have all, or maybe you're currently in that crossroad right now. I think if you listen to what everything is trying to line up to tell you, like what are you truly for, and what what do you stand for? What's your purpose?
Yeah.
And you hear that and you see all the things that drop in, you don't have to chase, right?
No, it's supposed to just show up at that right time that it's supposed to. And it's when you see that actually happen, like I said, when you write your goals for the year, or, just your manifestation, and you see, wow, that actually happened. And it was really easy. It's just when you and you keep seeing those small wins of, that proved to, it happened, it came to life. And when you start seeing more of those small wins happening in your life, it just builds that momentum
And your confidence that it's going to happen at the at the
Mhm.
exact time that it's supposed to,
Mhm.
because that's the uncomfortable part, like the okay, well, I know, but also the important part is that you do have to take action on your part to know what that is. And it's not like you just sit back and you're just hanging out over wherever. You're being intentional about and talking and having those conversations about what's important to you. But you can't, I always love the expression, you can't push a rope.
Yeah. Yeah.
And truly, like when you breathe and you're still, it comes to you.
Mhm. Another thing I always kind of think about too is, when I'm doing something challenging or being comfortable, staying in the uncomfortable is when you have the best and greatest growth, I feel like. So, when there's times where I'm like, it's where, what's the words I'm looking for, where you just kind of are like, you should do it, and it's the harder path. It's uncomfortable because it's not easy, but I just tell myself I'm going to learn something from this, and that's how I get to where I want to go next, it seems. So being reaching out first, or making that initiative and making that contact, or just applying for your dream job, and you never know, you might get shot down, but they have your name on file, you know what I mean? For the universities I've been teaching for, I've applied for how many times?
Yeah.
I think you just have to remember, we only hear about the good on social media, or the yeses that might have happened. And you don't always hear about all the no's that happened behind the scenes. So, and that's okay. That's just part of the process. And that putting yourself out there is really important.
That brings to light such an important part about what we perceive as failure. It's like that failure. So many of us are like, why would I do that? Or they get stuck in the, man, that just didn't work for me that time. How do I get past that in my life? So what have you learned from failure and what you've done?
Ooh,
Or what you've perceived as failure, what seemed like it was failure at the time, or something that didn't work out for you?
I just always feel like, again, the universe is just kind of redirecting me. And so if it's a failure, and honestly, when we say the word failure, it's only in our minds.
Yeah.
When I talk to other people, they're like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. That's fine. No big deal. And I'm just like, oh, it is okay. Like that role didn't work out for me, but I learned a whole lot from it, and I get to take it with me to my next experience. So um, I just think getting comfortable with rejection is just part of life. I mean, everyone is rejected. Use it as a motivator, put a spin on it, and just keep doing your own thing, because no one else, no one cares as much as you think they care.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I just thought of this. It's kind of like defining success, what it is in our life.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, how are we defining failure as well? It's something that you thought was going to happen that didn't look like exactly like what was going to happen, but it's still all in your mind.
Mhm.
But on the other side of it, you learned something else that made you better, right?
Absolutely. And I think, especially as a young mom now that's super busy, and the kids stage of life too, allowing myself, time to enjoy the moment of where I'm at, even if it is uncomfortable, or I'm not where I think I need to be at this moment in time. Just allowing the different phases and stages of life, play out, and then just enjoy each one. And taking a step back, maybe I'm not doing a gazillion projects like I'm used to doing. That's okay too. And that's something I have to remind myself when I think about do I say yes to this or do I say no? Because it might be a yes, just not right now.
Yeah, the timing may be better at the top of next year or whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
And so it's not a no, it's just like, and I know many of us we're scheduling into 2024, 2025 for a lot of things that we're doing because we have said yes to the things that are meaningful that will contribute to our growth in an intentional way, right?
Absolutely. And, just again, getting clear, going back to our purpose and, making sure that we are clear on that, I think helps you decide how much time you spend on something and what you want to do.
Such great advice. Megan, it's so good to catch up with you.
I know.
So I know that you have courses on Next Level Dental Hygiene. How can people get in touch with you? I know that your contact information will be in the show notes, but how do they reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm kind of guilty. I'm not huge on Facebook. I do have a Facebook page, but I would say mostly through LinkedIn. I do have a LinkedIn page. My email is probably the best way too, which Kelly will link below here as well. But those are probably going to be the two best ways that you'll hear from me with a quicker response.
Yeah, and then you're also doing personal coaching as well through Jamie Dooley's certification and also part of NNH. We haven't even talked about that, like barely all the things that, thank you for truly, thank you for the contributions, Megan, because you're such a wealth of knowledge. And again, we don't always feel that way. It's not something that we're just like, oh, it's just what I do. But we have to know truly who we are and what we're contributing because it's those things that we just, I think, not take for granted, but think that just kind of like anybody can do it. That really
sets you apart. It sets you apart. And, like you said, taking ownership. And you helped me work through that when we first, you're like, Megan, that's really cool. You can do that. And it's like, oh, well, if Kelly says I can,
and you did.
Yeah, so it's just, and having that mentorship and, like that's how we met. I reached out to Kelly and was like, I just feel like I need to know you. We have the doctorate, it's shared doctorate. So let's connect, again, putting yourself out there, so I think it's just how stars align it's meant to be.
Always. Well, thank you so much for taking time today. And again, to all of our listeners, thank you so much for your support and all that you do every day. And if you're at this conference, please, I hope to see you. But if you wouldn't mind going onto Apple and giving us a 5-star rating, Megan, give it 5. Right. Give us a 5-star rating and going over to YouTube, like, share, and subscribe to our posting. Be well, my friends, and we'll see you on the other side.